Hello everybody, and welcome to another video. My name is Rodgon, I'm a designer and illustrator, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to draw my little character Archie. He is a little tiny furball of love, and he is a little bit perverted, and he is a half raccoon, half red panda. So he has a complicated past. But we're gonna go around doing just everything from just the basic sketch, the shapes that I use, and hopefully that will help you guys come up with your own little characters so you guys can go home and just bust out your sketchbooks and then just draw some stuff on your own. So let's get to it, and let's not dilly-dally. Oh, and we're going to be using Manga Studio, just in case you guys are wondering. Okay, let's get to it. All right, so first things first, we have to have our program open, obviously, and well, let's identify what Archie is. So Archie is a little tiny character, and he is mammal. So let's see. And I always start his drawings with just a simple circle. A simple circle is the easiest way to break down anything, obviously, because you can see it as a sphere. You can, if this is it's gonna be his head, so it can be set to be looking in any direction I want just by indicating two quick lines. And this is something that a lot of people use, from comic books to animation and all that, nonsense. Pretty much any single time you need to have a character, if you need to draw, anybody, you normally make the indications of the lines, and then you can go in and add faces, or you want to add noses, whatever it is, eyes, boom, boom, boom. You want them to look down, make the guideline down, and then just shift everything accordingly. And then you can start doing that. The reason that I start with a circle for Archie is because then everything just gets translated from here. So we have the basic head. The ears are going to be about the same length as the size of the initial circle. We're going to, so it's about here to here. That would be one ear. You got to make sure that the other ear looks like it's a little bit behind if you're making him look at 3/4 view. If you were making him look forward, it would just be about the same as the other one. But drawing everything just flat out from a straight view is kind of flat. I don't like doing it. Unless it's absolutely necessary for like a turnaround, for like, I don't know, for a 3D model or anything like that. I just don't like drawing everything straightforward. I like drawing things from a 3/4 perspective. It's going to have 3 tufts of hair, because Archie doesn't fix his hair in the morning. Then, from this point, it gets a little tricky. I normally identify where the middle of the face is. In this case, it's this one right here and this one right here. At this point, I extend 2 little triangles on each side of it. And that's going to be his little cheeks, his little, like little furry parts on his cheeks. Okay, so so far we have a circle, we have a circle, we have 2 triangles, and then 2 more triangles for his cheeks. Then, at this point, I go in and indicate where the muzzle of his mouth is going to be, like with his little nose. So his little nose would be a little bit below where the eyes would line up, and it's like this little rounded jelly bean shape. And the reason that I do it like that, this is the shape that I always start with, right? I do it like this because it indicates a couple things. It indicates where the lip overlaps, where the mouth overlaps right here. It's super simple. just literally just like that. If you add teeth, whatever, it's going to give me an indication of where the nose is going to go. So it goes at the top of that. And from here, you can just follow the lines, and then it gives you the rest of the mouth. So that's the reason that I do it like that. It allows me to play with another shape within the shape, and that way you can just, you know, modify it to that. So we'll add this little shape right here, and this one goes in here, this one goes here, 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 here. Okay, so far we are going smoothly and just nice basic shapes, but you can already see a slight definition of how the character is going to look. Zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so we have that. And as you can see, I'm not adding any details yet. I try to wait until I have all my shapes defined before I start adding any, you know, details like tufts of hair. Well, I added these, but that's just because it helps identify the middle of the face. Let's see. The next thing is the eyes. The eyes normally start where the nose ends, or the muzzle ends, and they start from the eye socket. And if you see my tutorial on how to draw eyes, that's exactly what I do with Archie. I make a heavy top line, close it off, and then this one's gonna be the same. Just making sure that it's a little bit more squished, and then this line right here overlaps in this direction, so it gives it a depth. Because just really quick tutorial right here. Just gonna add it to this. When you're drawing eyes, right? They're spheres. They're not necessarily circles, they're spheres. So you have to make sure that it represents like a sphere whenever you're drawing any character. If you just draw a straightforward character, that's fine. You know, you don't have to overlap any shapes if you don't want to. The moment that you start adding little overlapping shapes, that's when you start getting depth to your drawing. It starts looking like an actual object inside. Same thing with drawing 3/4 view. So let's say you have this eye, and you add your little overlapping shape so it looks like it's a little rounder. And you have your other one, you have to do the same thing. But since you're seeing it from a different point of view, you have to make sure that it looks round. Because you wouldn't see, like, if this line continued, if there was eyelashes, it would pop out from here. If you did eyelashes on this side, it would just show the whole thing. But the roundness of the eye would kind of block a little bit of, you know, what you're seeing. You know, it goes around. And that's the reason that I do it like that. If you go see my eye tutorial, it'll explain a lot more. I'll just link it at the end of the video. That way you guys can have easy access to it. But for now, I just go in and do basic eyes. I'm not going to give them a facial expression or anything yet. In this case, I want to make sure that this one is a little bit in more. There you go. Cool. So now we have this, and we have the basic character. Okay, other little details that I like to add. Normally, characters have a brow line. What I mean by a brow line is if you have your eyes, and your eyebrow sits on top of a little muscle, or a little like, yeah, I think it is muscle. So this is what indicates where your eyebrow is going to go. Right? So if you bring it down, it's going to cover part of your eye. It's not the eyebrow that's covering your eye. It's the big little bulge. You can go right now. Just reach up into your eye, touch where your eyebrow is, and then just close it. And then you'll see like a little tiny, like overlapping thing. It's like a skin fold. So, taking that into consideration, we are going to split the little sphere. Just this little tiny indent that goes into where the eye would go. So if you have this and you split your sphere, this is where the eyes would go. It's like the beginning of the cheek and the beginning of the eyebrow line. This one right here. Okay? And that adds a lot of depth to your character. And remember, like, if you guys saw the last video where I just draw a whole illustration beginning to end, you'll see why it, like, overlapping shapes and depth are a big part of what I like to do with my drawings. Okay. Other details in the ears. I normally draw, like, ears are also a very interesting shape. So if you have this, right, this is kind of what an ear is. You have the inside with the furriness, and we have the outer part. In this case, we're going to draw this part for this one and have the hair. But this one's kind of pointing the opposite way. But we still want to add a little bit of depth. So we can just add a simple line right here that would indicate, if we saw this from a 3/4 point of view, it would just give you like an indication of this curvature right here. So it doesn't look flat. So, okay. So at this point, we can move down to the body. The body is going to be a little bit taller than the actual height of his head without his ears. So we have this. If we split that in two, that would be the height of his body. And that's including his feet. So if he's going to be sitting down, you'd probably only be able to see about that much, and then it would curl up. Okay. The arms are going to be about the same size as the head, a little bit smaller. So about the size of the torso. So let's identify first the basic shapes that make his body. It's normally a straight line on one of the two sides. So it's either straight here or straight here. So if I was curving him this way, if he was, you know, just lounging this way, it would be straight curve. Or you can make it even more exaggerated. You can make it, let's see, if he was like going this way, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then his arms. So flat, curve. And, you know, that's just a basic premise of cartooning. Curves versus straights. And eventually it just kind of sticks onto you. Like, I do it all the time. Straight, curve. Straight, curve. Straight, curve. Straight, curve. You know, it just comes to you because you do it so often. And it's an appealing quality to see. So we have the torso. And then we're going to have his legs. His legs are literally just a little cylinder. He doesn't have a pronouncing belly either. So, but he does have like a little circle. Like the little belly, like separation that some animals have. Then his feet, I give him a little indication of his little paws. And then comes the arms. The arms will be about the length of his torso, and they are literally the simplest shape ever. It's just a rounded and tapered circle or square, or whatever. If you just break it down like that, it would be this shape, right? And if you guys have ever seen Monies, like from Kid Robot, they're little vinyl toys. I used to love drawing those in like a million different things whenever I used to draw, like, you know, so like used to paint them. So I've always loved arms like that. And you can always, you don't have to keep them completely straight. You know, a shape like this can be molded in any way you want. So if you wanted to fold it, just remember to keep the general consensus of the shape and then you can fold it. So now let's add those shapes over here. That way you can know the breakdown. So we have that, we have the basic eyes, which are just like a really rounded triangle. Yeek. Okay. Okay. Let's try it again. There you go. That's just reference. Then we're gonna have the little jelly bean. So about 2 sides. Straight and curve. And then the legs are 2 cylinders. And then the paws are literally just half circles with that. And the arms are tapered off rectangles. There you go. So these are all the basic shapes that make Archie. Let's erase this. We need to add a little room for the tail. Okay, so now let's go back to this guy. Okay, so we have most of the shapes. The fingers are super simple with them. They're literally just little tiny circles. And as long as you know like a general position for fingers, it's kind of hard not to get them right. So we have that. Then the tail. The tail is about the same size as his entire height. So if we were to extend it, like calculating that it's curving up from here, from his little butt, it would not get all the way here. You'd have to eliminate this side. So it'd be about this height. It's nice and fat, and it normally has a little bit of a curvature to it. So I add this little, like I don't just make it completely straight like this because it doesn't have any depth to it. Adding little overlapping shapes, overlapping lines like this, or like right here, you know, on the opposing side of the other, you know, whenever it curves again, it gives you a lot of depth. And the next thing that gives it a lot of depth is the separations in his tail. So the last one, the last one always has to be white. That would be colored, and the one next to his body is white as well. It's just so it has a nice little contrast whenever you color it in. Alright, so you got to make sure that if it's hitting the ground, you have like a nice straight line to indicate that it's touching the ground. There you go. And the tail, it's literally just like a tapered off cylinder. If you drew it straight, I would probably draw it somewhere like this. And then separations, right? But you want to give it some life, so that's the reason that we draw it in a way like this. It's the same principle, it's just a little bit more lively. Okay, so we have most of the details from Archie here. Little other details that he has. His arms have like little gloves on them, and that's just spots. And then his paws have 3 little circles. Just to indicate, like, I don't know, like I like animals with little paws. Like that's pretty much the only reason. In this case, let's go in and delete a little bit more of these, so we can start adding the detail that is required in these areas, since we're talking about like the spots and stuff. Okay, from this point on, once I have a drawing like this, I would go in and decide what type of facial expression I want for the character. So in this case, let's make them like a little bit like super happy, right? So let's indicate how, if he had eyebrows, where the eyebrows would be. So he's really happy, so they would be really high. And then I used this indication of where the eyebrow would be to add his little face mask. He has two little sides to his face, two little masks, and it's honestly, it's almost just a heart on each side. It curves into where the middle of the eye would be. And since I have this little indent, I don't have to do it on that side. So you have that. And that way you replace the need for eyebrows. If, for example, you wanted to make him angry, it'd be a little bit different story. Let's see. You would have to indicate a little bit. A little bit of that eyebrow like muscle coming down, because it would still be like up here. Right? And then you have Angry Archie. But for this one, we're going to make him nice and happy. Yay! Then eyes. I had a couple messages from you guys explaining how I go about drawing my eyes so my characters don't look like they're just like, I don't know, like super creepy or something. Since most of the time I draw them with really tiny, like, you know, little eyes like this, they kind of look surprised all the time. But that's, I mean, if you start putting them next to the edges of the eyes, it gives a little bit better like feeling when it comes down to, you know, eyes like that. And the closer you put them to the middle and the more white area surrounding it, that's when you start seeing them look like they're surprised. It's just little tiny tricks. But Archie has relatively, you know, big eyes. Not super big, but big. So let's see. I'm just gonna make him looking at the people. Okay, nice and simple. Making sure that they're nice and straight. Not too cross-eyed. Even though a little bit of cross-eyed is cute. And then we erase a little bit for a highlight. There you go. Okay. Cool. It's coming out nice. Then the next thing is we just want to give them like a big, you know, like fat smile. So we're going to take our basic shape that we used and then we're going to extend it a little bit past that line. And in this case, the cheek would go over where the little eye shape would be. So you gotta make sure that you draw that little, like little shape of the cheek coming up. You can do the same thing for this side. Maybe he smiles really hard on one side. So we're just gonna keep it like that. Okay. We don't need a completely closed shape for this. We had it right here. It was like right here, right? So at this point, we're just gonna break it up with just a simple super little line to give an indication of where his nose, you know, starts to change direction, but without having to draw that big thick line. Right underneath, his nose is going to be a nice little triangle with the slightly rounded edges. We leave a little tiny highlight. Okay. And then we can be a little bit playful. We can, I gotta make sure that this line is overlapping. And as you can see now it has, you can add like the bottom lip, the bottom part of the mouth, or we can have them smiling if we wanted to. This tongue. And normally when it comes down to mouths, the bottom jaw is what moves up or down. It doesn't, the top, you know, that's why I get that's why I get away with just drawing the top part of the muzzle without having to worry too much about everything else for the facial expression. Like the mouth literally comes from the bottom jaw. Like that's the only part that moves. Your lips might move up and down, you know, to create different facial expressions, but your, like the top of your mouth doesn't really move. So you normally play with facial expressions with the bottom of the jaw. So in this case, I'm just going to make him sticking his tongue out. Give him a little thing. And then he starts looking a lot more like the normal Archie. Notice that this eye is a little bit too big. So I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier. Okay. Okay, this eye is a little bit too big too. There you go. All right, so we have a basic idea of what Archie is supposed to look like. Now, taking these little scenarios, you can take all these little examples, like as long as you keep the basic premise of the shapes that I gave you, or the ones that you decide to make for your own characters, you can go ahead and then make little chibi versions of them, or more complicated versions of them. So tufts of hair. And see, if I just wanted to make like a super simple Archie, right? We're going to have the same little wings on the side. We're going to just draw a super simple version of them. Little heart. Little heart. And there you go. You can go as simple as something like this. Yay! Smiling. Little jelly bean shape. Big arms. Let's make them sitting down. And then the tail. Boom. So it can be broken down super simple. Once you know the shapes and everything's consistent within them, then you can just go ahead and do something like that. Now, let's see other little details that you can't see from here. I'm going to have to make like a quick, version of them looking the other way. So if we're looking at them straight forward, like the muscle would be in front. Let's see. So we start with the circle, we add the ears, we add the little tuft of hair. And if we're making a profile view, we have to extend this little sections relative to where he's turning. So the little, like little triangles on the side go in a little bit into the circle. Because you remember, these are spheres, these are shapes. So if the first time we added it over here, if we turn it, this turned, it would be right there. This is the front of the face. This is the front of the face. Right? So you would add the little tuft of hair right here. The muscle would be the same shape, but it would be obviously sticking out from the front of the face. So it would be right there, connected. This is the middle of the face. The eye would start about here. Do the same thing, basic shape. If you wanted to add the eye, and then the little heart. Okay, let's erase it so you guys can see a little bit better. You add the nose. And then some little details you can't see from the angle that I gave you guys right here are a super something simple. So let's draw him like that, to have his arms extending this way. And then he has two little tiny stripes on his back. Okay, so those are the little tiny details that I forgot to add. Okay, so let's go back to this guy, and we're gonna keep it nice and loose, and we're just gonna add a little bit of color. And we're gonna break down like where the color goes and all that stuff, so you guys can play around with them and color them properly the next time you guys, go about drawing them. Because you guys do some really cool fan art, and I love it, and I love seeing it. I need to start featuring it more often, because every single time that I get fan art, I smile and I giggle like a little girl, like no joke. Okay, so little details, like little fur, like little patches of fur, indications, wherever like everything overlaps, it's always nice. Little tufts of hair. Little tiny details like that make a big difference. So they're gonna go with color. So Archie is actually pink. He is like a red panda combined with a raccoon. So he doesn't have super red panda features, and he doesn't have super raccoon features. So I figured that since red pandas have like a reddish orange tint and raccoons have grayish tint, that his colors would be a little bit muted, so he would come out pink. So the general color of his body is pink. So I'm just gonna saturate everything. There you go. So we can start like that by making every single part of his body pink. So the next thing is to identify what parts of his body are going to be a little bit darker. His ears and his little hands and little tiny accent things are going to be a slightly different color. They're going to be just a tiny bit darker pink. And I always trying to play with the idea of him being like color shifting guy. So like if he's sad, then maybe I would make him like blue. But I don't know. I think that just adds too much complication to the actual character. Like he's just a super simple character. I made him because I've always been a huge fan of Liberty Meadows. And that is a comic strip where, it's like really hot girls and really funny, silly animals. So I wanted my own little perverted animal that, has a very innocence to him. And that's what Archie is. He chases girls and he's super cute, so he gets their attention. And at the end of the day, he always steals their bras or, just does like something inappropriate. But he can get away with it because it's cute. Okay, so those are the his little feet have it too. Okay, so those are the aspects that would be the second color. The third color I like to go into is just white. So we're going to choose white, and we're going to color the parts that are supposed to be white. In this case, the eyes. The little highlights. And then I've always played with the idea of his little fingers just being black or white. In this case, we're going to make them white, but I haven't decided completely on what color they're supposed to be. I think white just stands out better. That, and then his tail. So Archie was named by one of my very good friends and one of my followers. Her name is Carla Newton, and she just got the chance to name him. I normally let everybody else name most of my characters. Now, the little bee that I draw all the time, if you guys weren't aware, if you guys see a little bee in my drawings, it normally means that I am in that specific state of mood for the day. And I'll make another video with that guy later. Okay, so we have the white already added. Then we're going to go into little tiny things that are going to make the drawing stand out even more. So we're going to choose the pink. We're going to go slightly lighter pink, and we're going to draw his little belly, a little belly gap. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of that same color to his nose. And honestly, the only part that I blend is this little section right here. The little parts that connect the nose section to everything else. You can make the little paw things the same color. Okay. And other than that, since his, he's already pink, so we got to make sure that his tongue stands out a little bit. So maybe saturate it a little bit more. And give it a little highlight to make it look wet. Okay. And there you go, guys. Let's remove all the excess stuff. Nah, let's just erase it. And we have Archie. Oh yeah, one more detail that I like to add whenever I draw things. I like to make sure that I add a hard shadow on the bottom of them to ground them into a floor. Even if there's no light source, even if you're not adding shadows, just adding a little bit of a hard light, like a hard shadow underneath, will make your characters, feel like they're standing on something. Just a quick tip. And if you guys look back through all my sketchbook tours and you guys look back through most of the videos that I make, I just, even if I am coloring with lighting and stuff, I still add that. It's just a little touch that I like to add. Now, if you're wondering what color the little stripe is in the back, it's the same color as the darker color. All right, so that would be Archie. If you wanted to go a little bit farther and make another step for, shadows and highlights and stuff like that, he doesn't have many highlights because his, skin is fur, so you can add slightly lighter colors of whatever you chose. But for shadows, I normally choose whatever the background's going to be. So let's say that the background for this one would be like daylight, right? It's daylight. So if it's daylight, I normally like to take whatever the light source is for that, make it darker. So in this case, you can go with like a slightly less saturated orange or yellow. Set that to multiply and set that to multiply drop the opacity down anywhere from 40 to like 20, depending on, you know, the style that you want to go with. And then seeing that since your lights are coming from this direction, and then the shadows would be on the opposite side, right? So they would be on this side of the character. They would color, if you had like spheres, they would color anything underneath and around. So since we're breaking everything down into basic shapes, it would be literally this. Boom. You know, super basic coloring. Breaking things down into basic shapes helps a lot. And yes, there is two different types of shadows. There's cast shadows and form shadows. And I'll have to make a video strictly just for those. Because I think that's a very important part of art. And if you aren't aware of it, then it's probably going to help you out a ton. Normally, I'll just break it down really quick. Let's say you have like a sphere right here, and this one's casting a shadow onto the other sphere. So cast shadows are the ones that are cast by something else, and those have nice straight edges, like nice super like straight. And then if it's a form shadow, let's say just to like indicate that something's going around, it would be more blurry. It would be like a smooth shadow. So as long as you add those two combinations of those two, you know, going hand in hand, then you should be fine. In this case, I color picked something else, so I have to go back, make it 100%, and then go back in so I can add my shadows. Okay. There's the little lip of the ear would cast a shadow there. That's why I added. The top of hair. The body would cast a little bit of a shadow on the tail section right there. And there you go. And for the most part, there you go. That is Archie in a nutshell. Alright guys, well, thank you guys so much for sticking around and actually listening to me break down my little character. I hope it was a little bit informative, and you can apply all these things to any character. Once you know the little like basic parts of any part of your character, little basic traits, you can break them down and you can just do anything with them. It's a basic animation principle, but I think it applies to a lot of different things. If you guys do storyboarding, if you guys do comic books, if you guys do anything like that, it'll help you guys out too. So hopefully it helped out. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoyed it, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later. If you guys want to see some more, I leave you guys a link to the left and to the right with some more videos, or you guys can check out my Patreon for some more goodies and things you might enjoy. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, and thank you again.